He said, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows.
It's time to put a stop to the ongoing attack on our elections and our democracy by the so-called longest ballot committee. On pretext of protesting our first past the post electoral system, a rogue group of activists have concocted a scheme to target ridings and flood the ballot with fake candidates. This group has targeted several by-elections. During the recent federal election, they targeted Pierre Poilievre in the Carleton riding, resulting in a meter-long ballot and a record 91 candidates. And now they're at it again, breaking that record by meddling in the upcoming Battle River Crowfoot by-election. Let's call this what it is. It's a total scam. These are not real candidates. They're not campaigning. They're not engaging with voters. They have no intention or interest in getting elected. All they are names on the ballot. And these fake candidates have managed to get on the ballot through a coordinated scheme taking advantage of certain provisions of Canada Elections Act. The clearest example of this is with respect to the collection of signatures by candidates. Pursuant to the Canada Elections Act, a candidate must obtain at least 100 signatures from voters within the riding to get onto the ballot. What the so-called longest ballot committee is doing is identifying a little more than 100 voters in a riding and getting basically the same pool of 100 voters to sign all of the nomination papers of all of the fake candidates that they want to get onto the ballot. This is a blatant abuse of the Canada Elections Act. The intent of the Act is that a candidate must have the support of at least 100 voters in the riding to get onto the ballot, not that 100 voters can flood the ballot with a seemingly endless list of fake candidates. But that's exactly what is happening. And make no mistake, this is not a trivial matter. These meter-long ballots and all of these fake candidates present serious challenges for voters, candidates, and those who administer our elections. They cause voter confusion. They cause barriers for voters with certain disabilities and literacy challenges. They make it more difficult for legitimate candidates to break through with voters. They necessitate a lot more resources by Elections Canada to administer elections at the cost of a taxpayer, and they cause significant delays in counting ballots and determining the election result.
Elections Canada is responding to the record-breaking number of candidates set to run in the upcoming by-election in Battle River Crowfoot. Albertans voting in that by-election will now do so using an adapted ballot. Elections Canada says voters must write the name of their preferred candidate in a blank space provided on the new ballots.
What we're dealing with is a deliberate attempt to disrupt our elections and undermine our democracy, and it needs to stop. Last September, the chief electoral officer called on the Liberal government to take action, but unfortunately, the Liberals did nothing. That's why I joined Pierre Poilievre recently in calling on the Liberals to finally take action. You see, a few simple amendments to the Canada Elections Act would go a long way to ending this blatant abuse of the electoral process, including raising the bar for candidate nominations from the very low threshold of only 100 signatures and requiring that candidates obtain exclusive signatures whereby a voter can only sign the nomination papers of one candidate in any given election. This scheme by the so-called longest ballot committee has gone on far too long. It's disrupted far too many elections. It's time for the Liberal government to act. It's time to end this nonsense.
Oh, yeah. Supposedly, according to about 40 people, there's been someone going around saying that they are on behalf of the Libertarian Party or on behalf of me, Michael Harris, and saying that we're looking for signatures to get onto the ballot.
As federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre hopes to win a seat here in Alberta in next month's by-election, activists are stuffing the ballot with names, hoping for change.
Ideas would be something perhaps a citizens' assembly on electoral reform, something essentially having a third party that is completely separate from the government, not like an appointed lapdog. You know, we have a lot of of watchdogs in our system.
Donovan Ekstrom is one of the organizers behind the Longest Ballot initiative and is one of the more than 100 names on the ballot for the federal by-election in Alberta in the riding of Battle River Crowfoot, where federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is vying for a seat in the House of Commons. The Longest Ballot doing the same stunt in the April federal election in Poilievre's riding to call attention to electoral reform in Canada. But Ekstrom telling me the group is nonpartisan, choosing to focus on this by-election in the considered safe Conservative riding because of the national attention.
Our goal was to actually run with in the Liberal leaders riding. We had assumed Freeland was going to win, and then Carney won, and there was not a lot of time and effort or time to switch everything over.
With voters in Battle River Crowfoot heading to the polls next month, Poilievre has spoken out against the initiative publicly. I reached out to the federal Conservative Party but did not hear back in time for broadcast. The federal Liberal Party telling me through a statement that every Canadian has the right to put their name on the ballot. The federal New Democrats not responding to City News' request for comment. With over 100 names, the Longest Ballot initiative literally makes the longest ballot for voters at the polls. While Ekstrom tells me he doesn't think that will cause confusion for voters, Elections Canada telling me through a statement they'll be looking at ways to simplify things for voters ahead of the by-election. The by-election happens August 18th.
Hey, that's something everyone can enjoy.
With some of these guys, some of these Longest Ballot Committee people have reached out to me directly after I made a little bit of a statement on them. Mostly just spamming my DMs. I don't mind personally if they come and message me, even if it's in a more hateful tone. I don't mind. I support freedom of speech. But as you can see, that's kind of the respectful attitude that I'm dealing with here. If they're not coming and talking to me, in a respectful manner, and if they're talking to me in, as like an aggressor or, as an enemy, then I'm going to treat it as such, that they probably don't like me too much.
Let's talk about something that Poilievre is trying to fight. He's trying to fight the long ballot initiative that's happening in this by-election. It happened when he ran against Bruce Fanjoy. I never thought that it benefited anyone other than the person with the biggest name recognition anyhow. It was just flooding the zone with more names to compete against. What's your stance on that, Bonnie?
There's a reason I asked them to just don't. Because they may cost me the election. I am the only legitimate candidate on that ballot right now with no differentiation from the protest ballots. It says independent under everybody's name. At least Bruce Fanjoy had Liberal Party of Canada under his name. I hate to just say it, but at this point, I will agree with Monsieur Poilievre. And I'm told that the point is for electoral reform. It's why they're protesting. But they're immediately abusing some of the first electoral reform we've had in a while, and that's the removal of a base cost to get on the ballot. $1,000 administrative fee is gone. It doesn't cost money to get on the ballot. So it's no longer just for the rich people who can afford that base before even fundraising. Next, because of the name recognition and the ability to distinguish between legitimate candidates and protest candidates, because protest candidates don't belong or aren't going to do anything. And people are very leery of marking off anything marked independent now. And so if people support me, they have to know the exact spelling of my name. It's not just that, there's that independent. I liked what she had to say. I'm buried in 200 names.
Oh, yeah. He said, win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat.
This is a scam. It is unfair, it is unjust, and it must stop.
These aren't real candidates, Poilievre wrote in a letter to federal government House leader Stephen McKinnon. This is a coordinated scheme to weaponize the ballot. He's asking for changes to electoral law, including a candidate needing signatures from 0.5% of the population in any given riding instead of the current 100 people.
Coming from a candidate that has never stepped foot in Battle River Crowfoot before these elections, that is very ironic.
The Longest Ballot Committee says this is not about Poilievre, it's about Canada's electoral system.
In our current first-past-the-post system, politicians game the system. They're the ones who decide the way our elections are run. And obviously there's a conflict of interest, since they are the ones who directly benefit from our current system.
Oh, yeah. Hi, everyone. Congratulations, you're spending more money on taxes than on food, clothing, and shelter combined.
How many kids did you molest with Jeffrey Epstein?
More than just elbows. These are Muslim values. These are Canadian values.
Anyhow, what are you going to do? Trying to keep you informed. Aaron Canadian Looney trying to hit 30,000 subs. Help me get there. Thank you for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Later, gang.